2021, the president said to his operating surgeons, "I hope you're all Republicans." And a few years later, while addressing a U.S. airbase in Germany, a balloon popped in the air, making the sound of a gunshot.
America missed me.
And that is all we have for you this evening on the
conflict of interest. Do you have a specific example of that from the data?
Well, we do. So there's a Chinese company that actually licensed technology and is paying royalties to the former director and the current director of Fauci's Institute. They've got a lab over there called the Lab of Infectious Diseases. That company is also paid a royalty to Douglas Lowry, who is he is 3 times the acting director of the National Cancer Institute. So these are leaders within the institutes over at NIH, and they're receiving royalties from a foreign payer located in China and owned by the Chinese Communist Party, Sinopharm. Sinopharm they distributed and manufactured the Chinese version of the COVID-19 vaccine. This Wuhan Institute of Biological Products that's cutting the royalty checks to these executives over at NIH is also very close, both in proximity. They're neighbors to the Wuhan Institute of Virology, and they collaborate with the Wuhan Institute of Virology on different projects as well. So I think this is a great example of the potential of an entire landscape littered with conflict of interest.
And you mentioned foreign countries.
The entire database here has the potential to unearth not only conflict of interest, but also ways that all these different companies used our Crown Jewel National Lab to outsource their own research and development.
For sure. And now the NIH still refuses to disclose the amount of money paid and the inventions involved. So what's next in this case for your organization?
Well, the NIH has tried to stop us at every turn from getting this information to the American people. They ignored our Freedom of Information Act requests. They forced us to file expensive federal litigation. When we won that, they slow-walked 3,000 pages of royalty production over the course of a 10-month period. It was so redacted it was nearly worthless. But just last week, they caved on the name of the company. So for the first time since 2005, we can tell who paid Fauci, former director of NIH Francis Collins, and all 2,407 of its scientists. And we're looking for crowdsourced reform. Come to our website. We make this database available in an Excel format, so it's very easy to search, and you can search and help us unearth the stories to hold the NIH accountable.
And that's openthebooks.com. Thank you so much, Adam.
NIH is so full of corruption. It is ridiculous. I never knew how bad it really was until tonight. Lordy, lordy, lordy. I believe they should be disbanded and every one of them fired, put in jail. What they have been conspiring with, taking money from all kinds of people, Belarus, China. It's getting ridiculous. Our own government agencies.
He understood that. He said, yes, Hong Kong will be handed back to China in 1997. But don't be scared, because the communists are not going to come and run Hong Kong. Why? Because you will have one country, 2 systems. One for the mainland, one for Hong Kong. So you will have your capitalist system, your freedoms, your rule of law, your personal safety for 50 years after 1997 until 2047.
Now, Hong Kong people are to run Hong Kong. That is the promise, and that is the unshakable destiny.
To the CCP, Hong Kong is a mixed blessing. It is crucial for China's international trade and foreign capital raising, but its aroma of freedom and persisting memories of the CCP's brutalities are considered poisonous to the CCP's ruling of mainland China. In 2003, 6 years after the handover, Beijing tried to pass Article 23, an anti-sedition law, in Hong Kong. It would let the party arrest commemorators, as well as free thinkers, people of faith, and political activists, all in the name of national security.
Well, I think the Chinese government feels that they really need to come in and have very tight control. So, I mean, they have for decades, even before 97, infiltrated Hong Kong. Their party members have infiltrated the government, the universities, business, and professionals.
In 2012, the regime tried to implement a national education curriculum that glorifies the party and teaches its version of history.
現在國民教育最大嘅被批評嘅地方就係洗腦。
因為國民教育科係中國定出嚟嘅歷史，唔係真正嘅歷史。
The regime intensified media controls in Hong Kong in 2013 and 2014. Journalists were stabbed and beaten by triads linked to the regime. Vandalism, physical attacks, and financial interference became common.
The basic law promises press freedom, but in reality, it is being significantly compromised. Interviews were barred, finished pages were removed, photos were added, columnists were sacked.
This is the worst time. I think most of mainstream media are self-regulated and self-censorship.
About a decade ago, the China rolled up a lot of CIA operations in China. A dozen or more CIA sources were arrested or worse, executed. Have you rebuilt?
Yeah, we've made progress and we're working very hard over recent years to ensure that we have a strong human intelligence capability to complement what we can acquire through other methods.
Over a decade ago, Beijing killed or detained over a dozen CIA sources. One of them was shot in front of his co-workers in the courtyard of a state building inside China. Back to the latest arrest, China says the newly captured alleged spy had worked for an industrial group linked to the Chinese military. The group sent Zhang to Italy to further his studies. But while there, he reportedly got acquainted with a local CIA agent. The report refers to the U.S. agent as Seth. It goes on to say that Zhang later signed contracts with the U.S. intelligence agency. In exchange, he was promised large sums of money and a smooth U.S. immigration process for his entire family. The statement continues that Zhang repeatedly delivered core intelligence to CIA agents after returning to China from Italy. Something to note, China's revised Anti-Espionage Act took effect last month. The updated law gives Beijing additional authority to...
About 11,000 homes and businesses were without power early Friday.
First, go through, try to find as many bodies and loved ones, missing personnel as they can. Then next is a little bit of cleanup. Then it's allowing the business and homeowners to go in and grab their effects. So the public's not going to be allowed in for a long time, and it's going to be a very long process before they can rebuild.
The Maui County Police Chief estimated that approximately 1,000 people remain missing. The death toll could continue to rise. Vice President Kamala Harris told reporters Friday that she would like to visit Hawaii to tour the damage, but has no plans yet. She said she and President Biden are deeply concerned by what's happening.
We are monitoring it closely. We are coordinating federal resources to swiftly get there to support the work that has to be done, both in terms of recovery, but to just support the folks on the ground.
You just want a vacation.
Officials say it could take days or even weeks to restore cell phone services on Maui. Hawaii Governor Josh Green said Lahaina residents are expected to be allowed back into the town on Friday. Reporting by Allison Lee, NTD News.
Guns, burner phones, and registrations, that was pretty much our title. It went completely viral because, of course, this is an unbelievable situation. We found out later that this group has it has businesses throughout all of the battleground states. So they have offices all over. We found out more about the person who runs GBI Strategies. His name was Eric Bell, and he bragged about how he's in charge of 70 different organizations, and that he's working again in 20 states, and he's an advisor in another 7 states. So I think what we stumbled upon, Natalie, is we may have accidentally stumbled upon one of the primary organizations that is used by Democrats to, in my opinion, that is used to manufacture registrations in order for Democrats to manufacture votes. We put this up. The media went crazy. They didn't know what to do. The fact checkers said, oh, that's not true. Only 46 of these registrations were bad and were thrown away. Today, then, this is the big news today. The Detroit Press, very liberal paper, like all of the Michigan papers, they came out and they admitted that what we reported basically was that we were correct. So this was their Friday night drop. They admitted that 8,000 to 10,000 of these voter registrations were bad. And this was from the Attorney General's office, Dana Nessel, who is a complete radical. So at the same time, the Dana Nessel is going after 16 alternate electors, and she wants to put them in prison. She's hiding from the public that they had this investigation going on into these thousands of fake registrations. So I think we're just starting with our reporting. We're going to discover more and more about where else they were involved, what other states, and this is an amazing admission today. The Democrats are admitting that there actually were 8,000 to 10,000 in this one city from this group, GBI Strategies. I also need to point out for your audience, and that is that who was funding GBI Strategies? Democrats. The Biden campaign, the Democrat senatorial campaign, different other Democrat groups, and this Black PAC, which was funding them with millions of dollars. And so how important was that for them? It was very important. If they're putting in from $7 to $11 million in 2020 into this group. And now we know what this group was doing.
Well, as you well know, when the fact checkers come out in full force, that's typically a sign that you're covering the story correctly, but in a way that the administrative state, and in this case, the Democratic Party, doesn't want you to. Before I let you go, could you just walk us through one more time, and maybe it dovetails with where you're going to take this story, but obviously you're talking about, one small state with a population of under 40,000 people, and we're talking about ballots and the numbers of anywhere from 8 to 10,000. That's about 25% of the population there. I highly doubt that this operation was just contained to one small city and one swing state. If you project this, kind of go meta with it, how many states, and again, this might just be you hypothesizing, but how many states do you think were affected, counties? Could this have flipped the election outcome? I'm just curious your thoughts.
Well, I believe one of my theories is that you have to have the extra registrations in order to have the extra votes. And I strongly believe in that. And so in Michigan alone, the GBI Strategies had offices in several different cities, including Flint, Detroit, Muskegon, and a couple others. And then also it has been confirmed from this police officer I spoke with today, who is an amazing person who put this report together, and from the actual director of GBI Strategies, that they're in at least 20 states operating in 2020. And so this is a huge, huge deal.